is summer, the time of the mild evenings and the best time for concerts, maybe. At least definitely the best time for open air concerts, and air is the key word. This French, easy listening electronic pop duo had massive successes in the late 90s and early 2000s, at least with a certain hipster indie crowd. They released a couple of albums throughout their critically acclaimed career, but then decided after, I think, a run of 5 or 6 albums to call it a day, and since then have been on an indefinite hiatus. I don't think they ever officially split up, but they simply stopped working together or recording new material. But in this day and age of bands performing their legendary albums in full, Air have come back and they are currently touring Europe in order to celebrate the, I think, anniversary of their famous debut album, Moon Safari. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this idea of a band performing one album in the exact order live on stage. I always feel this has a little bit of the impression of, it's like a stage play or a museum performance, the work in its entirety and nothing is allowed to be changed, and it takes away from, I think, the free spirit of a rock or pop concert. But I never saw Air during their active years, and this was an occasion I didn't want to miss. So I was very happy that Air, in fact, did a second show in Vienna. They already played in Vienna in February, I believe, in a concert hall. That gig was sold out within 30 minutes, no chance to get tickets. And then they came back in summer for an open air performance, probably with the same set list. I guess this kind of concert and with this kind of group, you get a very, set, predefined set list that will hardly change from venue to venue. But this was something I wanted to see, so I was happy to get tickets for Air play Moon Safari open air, which I think is an even much better setting for this kind of music than watching this in a hall. The venue also was perfect for Air due to some combination. They played in the Metastadt, the Meta City, which is actually an old industrial area, an industrial estate that used to house, I think, electricity works. It was a factory for electricity, which was given up in the 1970s. And the concert took place at this area outside in a yard which is surrounded by the old factory buildings. So buildings with red or rather light brown bricks. And what I'm getting at is that this pretty much depicts I think also what Air are about, because there is a feeling of nostalgia. There's something old, these old buildings from, I believe, the early 20th century, plus the combination with electricity or electronics. And Air themselves, at least in one song, define themselves as electronic performers. But if you know the sound of Air, their sound also is very nostalgic, harkening back to actually a retro futuristic sound that very much takes inspiration from easy listening, acid jazz, and I would argue also TV themes from the 1970s. Before we get to the main act, though, there were two support bands, and I was there pretty early, so I listened to both those support acts. The first act was a band called Leia, written or spelled with two Y's, an act from Austria. Apparently, they are at the core a duo, but they played live as a trio and said themselves that usually they have a full band, at least on stage. Leia play this kind of 2000s, 2010s, laid back indie pop with strong electronic influences. You could also maybe call this indie dream pop. It's all quite laid back, very pleasant, a bit hazy, female vocals. And yeah, as I said, pleasant to listen to. In the long run, it all sounds a little bit the same. Maybe it lacks a bit of dynamics or energy. Though I really enjoyed the last two songs they played, because they were a bit more up tempo and had a bit more energy going for them. And they had a very interesting drummer, I thought, who did sometimes a bit more unconventional things with his drum kit, or had some not so straightforward drum patterns and beats combined with loops and some other electronic gear. Yeah, so if you want to find out what's going on in the Austrian indie scene, maybe check out the band Leia. And then after a longer break to reset the stage, just have a breather, which gave you time to wander around the premises or go to some of the stands with food and drinks. Lots of possibilities to get drinks and food there. Very relaxed atmosphere. The second support act came on stage. This time, I think, four guys. The project Berlioz from the UK. This is a pseudonym of a DJ music producer who also took center stage, and they played a kind of, well, how to put it, new jazz, electronic jazz, or rather very jazzy house music, chill out style, the stuff you hear in cocktail bars. Again, a very pleasant sound, but with this kind of music, there's not a lot happening on stage, actually. It were four guys who more or less statically played their thing, and this music also is rather meant, I think, to create an atmosphere or create a nice background sound, but it's something that really looks very boring if you watch it as a live concert. I liked that they had a live saxophone player that really added that jazzy touch to it. But ultimately, I have to say I was a little bit bored by this by this support act. It's something that sounds really better in the background or at a club, or if you go to a fancy restaurant and it plays in the background. The audience enjoyed it though, but yes, they didn't really. Most people, I think, didn't really get into it like a live concert. They rather used the performance to, dance a little bit and have a chat with their friends while enjoying the music, which really is not what I'm looking for if I go to a live gig. But hey, that's at the end, it's just a matter of taste. Maybe you are a big fan of this style or a huge fan of Berlioz. Um, then we had another shorter break to get all excited for the main act. The audience was, again, a very mixed crowd, but you could tell that all of them came from more a kind of indie pop or hipster background, but you had, a demographic of 20-year-old students up to, I'd say, 60-year-old music fans. Also, the crowd very relaxed and in a sort of summer vacation mode. Also, an international audience. I heard people from the Netherlands and from the UK, apparently. And then they came with their own little stage on stage. Air had an open rectangular box designed in which all the instruments were placed, and they performed the entire show within this, small stage box that was brought on stage. Conveniently, it also looked like it perfectly fits onto the transporter truck to be brought directly to the next venue after the show. But as you will maybe see on some of my blurry footage, that wasn't all about it. They projected fantastic visuals onto the walls and sides of this box stage, which was an integral part of their live performance. Air came all dressed in white, very elegant, very shy. Not a lot of words were spoken apart from the occasional merci beaucoup between tracks. There was actually no interaction with the audience, which fits the band, I think, and which was something that I more or less had expected. It wouldn't suit their image if they started telling long stories between songs or would make jokes. However, they had a third member on stage, a live drummer. If I'm informed correctly, his name is Louis Delorme, and he was the one responsible for making some fun on stage, interacting with the crowd, motivating the crowd, and just doing some really funny antics in between. This tour marks the live performance of some of the tracks from this legendary album live for the very first time. Why Moon Safari? Well, the album celebrated its 25th anniversary last year in 2023, and since then Air have been on tour. And the first half of their concert was entirely dedicated to the live performance of this album in its exact running order. Performing albums in full has become quite a trend in the last 10 to 20 years, I would argue. Everybody's doing it. Old progressive rock bands, hard rock and metal bands, and now also electronica duos. In combination with the often spacey visuals that were running in the background on stage, Moon Safari really took us to the moon as listeners and as spectators, and beyond to faraway planets with tropical plants and fluffy little aliens. This was underlined by soap bubbles floating through the audience, but most of all, there were clouds of, well, herbal delight cigarettes wavering over our heads during more or less the entire concert.
Are we sure they're fresh?
Playing Moon Safari in its original sequence means that although well-known songs from this album come at the very beginning, we're talking here about Sexy Boy, All I Need. Or Callie Watch the Stars. Songs I was very happy to sort of revisit and hear again, all performed smoothly but not without an underlying energy by Air, mostly due to the drummer, which really gave it an authentic live performance feel. Jean-Benoît Dunkel and Nicolas Gaudin, I hope I pronounced that correctly, performed their songs competently with those high and hushed, breathy vocals that really give the music this airy quality. The retro, moog, and synthesizer sounds that are prominent in all of those songs really give a certain retro futuristic touch to the whole music, and probably some fans would also argue that there is a kind of tranquil eroticism in some of those tracks. For All I Need, which was originally performed by Beth Hirsch on the album, they used some samples of her vocals in the live concert. All the other songs were performed or sung by Air themselves. Often they used vocoders, which turned a lot of those songs into sort of ballads for lovesick robots. Yeah, and if you imagine to be listening to this during a warm and wonderful summer evening, um, that really is a special atmosphere. There are so many influences in their music. Obviously, a lot of 60s, 70s easy listening, but then also Air are probably a laid back version of space rock. And of course, they have a lot of influences from soundtracks and television music as well. I really often was reminded of well beloved cartoon series from the late 70s, early 80s that in fact never were. The second block of the setlist then presented a kind of greatest hits selection, or rather a selection of popular tracks from the next two albums Air released. They completely left out their final two albums, didn't play anything from those final albums, and rather concentrated on Talkie Walkie and 10,000 Hertz Legend. They played Venus and Run from Talkie Walkie, especially Run was a fantastic version. High School Lover, not the more famous Playground Love from the Virgin Suicide soundtrack, but High School Lover, an instrumental. Then, of course, the dreamy Cherry Blossom Girl, also a fan favorite, and the more dramatic, a bit more uptempo, Don't Be Light. Probably one of the highlights from this concert. Yeah, everybody was happy by then. One guy standing behind me, for example, expressed his huge enthusiasm for each song by using really strong language whenever he recognized the track that was, or the tune that was being played. And they came back for an encore. They played Alone in Kyoto, the more meditative Alone in Kyoto, an instrumental, very soft, very pensive. I think it was also used for the soundtrack of Lost in Translation. And then finished their set with electronic performers, which felt like a kind of statement from Air to round off the show. And of course, they use a lot of electronics, but personally, I wouldn't consider them merely or as purely electronic performers. They just combine a lot of analog instruments with those old retro keyboard and synthesizer sounds, as well as more modern electronics. And they always did it in a very charming, but also stylish, and I think I've used that word before as well, elegant way. It never sounds cheap or, following a certain trend of the day. Air really sounded unique when they appeared on the scene in the late 90s. And the style, even though you can easily hear the influences that they are working with, but I would argue their style still sounds unique nowadays. And with that, these French gentlemen said their farewells. The drummer, after a few minutes, came back once more on stage and had a bit of fun with the remaining members of the audience and threw all his drumsticks into the crowd. Really funny guy. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. It certainly wasn't a sweaty rock and roll gig, but the perfect thing to be enjoyed in summer. It actually makes me want to listen to all my Air albums again, which certainly is a good sign after a concert. Maybe you want to revisit Air as well, or maybe you have also seen one of their current shows during this Moon Safari anniversary tour. Maybe there's something to share in the comments. And if not, we will see, maybe, in the next video here on Murdock's Music Minute. For now, I'll be floating away in my own little soap bubble. Au revoir.